What if I told you that the most powerful form of revenge isn't chaos, loud confrontations, or any form of public drama? What if the most devastating revenge is silence, the kind that doesn't demand attention, but quietly starves someone of it? This is the type of silence that doesn't scream but simply fades away, leaving the other person to grapple with the absence of your presence. No slammed doors, no final words, just your absence echoing louder than any confrontation could. This isn't about ghosting or cowardice. It's far more strategic. It's psychological warfare. When you detach without explanation, you become the question that haunts their mind. They are left trying to make sense of what happened repeatedly, playing the events over in their heads. They'll wonder, why did they leave? What went wrong? And the absence of a clear answer drives them mad. That's the first principle of power. Let them haunt themselves. You don't need to explain your exit. Their mind will do it for you. You don't need drama or a confrontation. You don't have to try and make them understand your reasons. The most powerful thing you can do is disappear without fanfare. When you leave without explanation, you turn into a mystery. They can't solve a puzzle that keeps them up at night. Their mind will try to fill the silence with their own version of events, but you've already moved on, mentally, emotionally, and strategically. The art of emotional starvation. When someone manipulates or controls you, they feed on your emotional reactions. Every angry outburst, every moment of jealousy, every time you chase them or try to explain yourself, it's like oxygen to them. Some people stay close to you just to provoke these reactions, to confirm that they still have access to your emotions. For a while, maybe you allowed it. You argued, you explained, you tried to make them see your worth through your words. But here's the truth. People don't respect explanations, they respect silence. Silence is the most powerful response you can give. When you stop responding to their emotional manipulations, you stop feeding them. Suddenly, they're the ones being evaluated, not you. Your silence becomes a mirror, and what they see in it will haunt them. No more validation, no more reminders that they matter to you. Without that supply, they either collapse or come crawling back, but you won't be waiting for them to return. This isn't about playing games. It's about reclaiming control. Detachment isn't passive. It's a calculated choice. It's the decision to stop allowing someone to occupy space in your mind and your emotions. You stop emotionally bleeding and start healing through absence. You don't need revenge. You don't need to be understood. All you need is silence sharpened like a knife. Let it cut deep. Let them feel what you no longer say. The power of vanishing without explanation. One of the greatest advantages you have over anyone who has tried to control you is unpredictability. Most people expect a response when they wrong you. They expect noise, screaming, pleading, or at least some emotional display that shows they still matter to you. As long as you're reacting, they believe they still have control over you. That's why they don't panic when you argue. They panic when you disappear. Vanishing without explanation isn't cruelty. It's precision. It's a sharp, strategic exit from their reality, leaving them in psychological freefall. They keep waiting for a message from you, replaying the events over and over in their minds, searching for clues as to where things went wrong. But you're already gone, not just in body, but in attention. That's what they can't handle. You didn't announce your exit. You didn't declare your worth. You simply stopped showing up. And that absence haunts them. Now you're not a person they can argue with anymore. You've become a question in their mind, an unsolvable puzzle, a presence that becomes more powerful in absence. Your silence speaks louder than any words could. You're telling them, without saying a word, that they are no longer worthy of access to you. That destroys their illusion of control. Let them wonder, Let them spiral in confusion while you remain emotionally untouchable. Control yourself, and you control everything. The true mastery in life starts within you, your thoughts, your impulses, your reactions. Control doesn't mean dominating the world around you. It means remaining unmoved when the world tries to provoke you. Think about how many times someone pulled you out of character, triggered your emotions, and made you react. Every time you reacted, you gave them power over your emotions. But now you've evolved. You've learned the highest form of power is emotional restraint. When they try to guilt you, stay still. When they bait you, stay silent. When they shame you, smile and give them nothing. They don't know how to handle someone they can't emotionally stir. Emotional control terrifies them because it exposes their own lack of control. You've stopped handing them your peace, and now you guard it like a weapon. Indifference isn't weakness. It's strategic warfare, quiet, calculated, and lethal. While they panic in the noise, you rise in silence. While they try to provoke you, you study. While they crave reaction, you offer mystery. Eventually, they will realize that you've become untouchable not because you shouted louder, but because you refused to play their game. It's not just about detaching from them. It's about detaching from the part of yourself that needed to prove something to them. You no longer need their validation. You've mastered the art of emotional control. And with that control, you've gained real power. Comment this if you feel it rising in you. My control is my crown. I wear it in silence. The moment you start to pull away, the dynamics of the relationship shift dramatically. It's not about showing them you're angry or seeking a dramatic confrontation. It's about withdrawal, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and psychologically. When you stop responding to their attempts to provoke, when you stop offering your time, energy, and attention as easily as you once did, that's when the real shift begins. Most people don't realize they're addicted to the sense of control they believe they have over others. When you start to pull away, it's not you they miss, it's their grip over you. The moment you stop engaging with them regularly, stop giving them the emotional responses they've been feeding off of, you'll start to notice their panic. It won't be obvious at first, but over time, they'll begin to react. Their replies will become more desperate. Guilt trips disguised as concern will emerge, and attempts to reel you back in will increase. They don't miss your presence. They miss the power they once had over you. Without that power, they feel vulnerable, and that vulnerability terrifies them. The anxiety begins to set in because they realize deep down that they were never as important to you as they thought. It was the idea of control they valued, not the connection. And when that control slips away, they're left with nothing. Your absence becomes their consequence. They have no one to manipulate, no one to provoke into reaction, and no one to drain emotionally. You've withdrawn your energy and validation, and without those, they start to crumble. But you don't need to rub it in. You don't need to create a scene. You simply move on quietly and let them feel the weight of their own actions. The silence you leave behind is more powerful than any argument or confrontation ever could be. Detachment doesn't have to be harsh or dramatic. It's about letting them feel the void you leave. Your withdrawal isn't a punishment. It's a recalibration of your worth. You're no longer overextending, over-explaining, or over-investing in something that wasn't valuing your time and energy. And when they're forced to face the empty space you've left, they realize how little they truly valued you in the first place. When you pull away and stop giving access to your emotional supply, that's when they'll feel the shift most intensely. They will try to chase after the version of you they knew, but that version is gone. The person who tolerated disrespect, who begged to be seen, who gave without question, that part of you is dead. The new version of you is quieter, sharper, and far more powerful than before. This version of you doesn't need to be seen or understood by those who didn't recognize your value when they had the chance. What they never expected is that you've outgrown them emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. You've evolved past the need to chase them to beg for their attention or to justify your actions. Your silence speaks for itself. You no longer react because there's no need. You've risen above it. And that silence, it's not empty. It's a statement, a quiet declaration that you've moved on and that what you once shared with them no longer holds any significance. They will try to convince themselves that your absence is temporary, that you'll eventually come back. But they'll be wrong. You won't return. And that's the lesson they'll have to learn. The real tragedy they will face is that you were always the prize and they never truly appreciated you when they had you. They mistook your consistency for weakness, and now that you've withdrawn, they are left with nothing but their own regrets. The best part is they'll never get the closure they want. You've already provided it by simply walking away without drama, without bitterness, without any need to explain. You don't need to go back and prove anything to them. The new version of you is untouchable. You've mastered your emotions, guarded your peace, and you choose who gets access to your energy. They lost their chance, and the consequences of their actions will haunt them in the silence you've left behind. When you start to walk away without looking back, you enter a different phase of emotional and psychological control. The people who once believed they had the ability to manipulate you to stir up your emotions will be left in a state of shock. They expect you to react to chase or to confront them. They believe that when you withdraw, it will be temporary, that eventually you'll cave and return to the pattern of seeking their approval or explaining yourself. But when you don't flinch, when you don't check in, when you don't even look back, that's when the power shift happens. They were waiting for you to collapse under the weight of your silence, for you to beg for clarity or closure, but instead you stand tall, unmoved. Your decision to walk away isn't just a response, it's a transformation. You've evolved into someone who no longer needs validation from them or anyone else. It's not about revenge. It's not about winning or losing. It's about reclaiming your peace, your value, and your strength. In their minds, they've already built a narrative of how they expect you to act. They expect you to seek them out to argue your case, to fight for closure. But when you don't engage, when you give them nothing, that's when they begin to panic. They can't understand how someone they once controlled so easily can now walk away so completely. It leaves them in a state of confusion, and that confusion is powerful. They will try to search for reasons why you're no longer in their life, replaying everything they did wrong in their heads, trying to figure out the moment they lost you. But the truth is, you left long before you physically walked away. The moment they stopped valuing your presence, you mentally checked out. The emotional detachment came before the physical one. And that's what they'll never be able to understand. By the time they realize what they've lost, you've already moved on. You're already in a better place emotionally and mentally, and they are left behind caught up in their own confusion and regret. They will try to recreate the version of you they had, but it won't work. You've outgrown them, and they can't go back to who you once were. This transformation is not about cruelty. It's about clarity. You've chosen to rise above the chaos they tried to drag you into. You've chosen to move beyond the emotional patterns they wanted you to stay trapped in. And that shift, that evolution, makes you untouchable. They will forever be trying to catch up, but they won't succeed. The distance between you and them is not just physical. It's psychological, emotional, and spiritual. You've leveled up in a way they can never return to. You've stopped responding to their need for validation. You stopped chasing them, Stopped pleading for their attention, and most importantly, you stopped allowing them to control how you feel. The emotional manipulation they once used to hold power over you no longer works. You've detached from the part of you that once needed to prove something, to explain yourself, or to beg for someone to see your worth. This detachment isn't coldness. It's intelligence. It's wisdom gained through experience, through understanding that not everyone deserves access to your energy. You've learned to protect your peace, to guard your emotional well-being like a precious resource. You've realized that your silence, your absence, your refusal to engage in their games is the ultimate form of power. It's your way of saying that you are no longer willing to be part of a dynamic that drains you. They may try to play on your emotions, but they will soon realize that you no longer respond to their tactics. They'll send messages, try to provoke you into a reaction, but all you give them is silence. And that silence is louder than any argument, any confrontation, or any emotional outburst. It speaks volumes about how far you've come and how much power you now hold over your own emotions. The real power of detachment. True detachment doesn't mean you've become numb or indifferent to the people you care about. It's not about being cold or unfeeling. Detachment is about wisdom, about understanding when it's time to stop giving away your energy to people who don't deserve it. It's about recognizing that your value doesn't need to be proved or explained to anyone. You don't need to chase people who don't value you. You don't need to beg for closure because you are already whole without it. Your silence isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength, of control, and of self-respect. The moment you stop explaining yourself, stop defending your actions, and stop seeking their approval, you reclaim your power. You become untouchable because you've learned the art of emotional restraint, of walking away without looking back, and of refusing to engage in battles that no longer serve you. You don't need to make them feel the pain they caused you. You don't need to show them how much they've hurt you. Instead, you let them feel the absence of your presence. You let them experience the consequences of their actions without you ever saying a word. This is your power, your ability to walk away and leave them with nothing but the echo of their own mistakes. The real power lies in knowing that you are better off without them, in knowing that your peace is worth more than any explanation or apology they could offer. When you detach, you don't just walk away from them. You walk away from the old version of yourself that needed to fight for validation, the version that allowed others to dictate your emotional state. The new you is calm, collected, and untouchable. Your silence, your absence, and your emotional control are all signs of how far you've come. You no longer chase after people who fail to appreciate you. You no longer seek answers from those who aren't willing to give you the respect you deserve. You've learned that the best revenge is living well and moving on without regret and without the need to prove anything. This is your transformation. You don't need their closure. You don't need to explain your silence. Your life, your peace, and your emotional strength are the only proof you need. They will try to understand. They will try to regain control. But you've already moved beyond them. You've won the game without even having to play. The most potent shift you'll experience when you detach is the realization that you no longer need to react to the past. This is a milestone in personal growth, the point where you understand that the people who once controlled your emotions no longer have any influence over your life. Their attempts to provoke you, to guilt trip you, to make you feel like you owe them an explanation, all of it becomes irrelevant. You've mastered the art of emotional independence. It's no longer about needing others to validate your worth. You no longer need closure because your sense of self-worth is internal. You have learned that closure isn't something you wait for. It's something you create. You walk away without looking back, and you don't feel the need to correct their misconceptions. You don't need to clarify anything. Your actions speak for themselves. Your peace speaks for itself. Your silence is the answer, and it's all you need. In time, they will start to realize the truth that they never truly understood your value when they had access to you. They will come to terms with the fact that they took you for granted. They might try to recreate the dynamic they once had with you, but it will be in vain. The version of you that they once knew is gone, and they'll be left chasing after someone who no longer exists. This is the power of transformation. You have leveled up emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. You've evolved into someone who no longer seeks validation, who doesn't need to explain their actions, and who doesn't beg for the affection or attention of people who don't appreciate you. And that's where your real power lies. Not in being seen, not in being heard, but in becoming so self-assured and emotionally independent that nothing and no one can disturb your peace. Let them chase you. Let them chase. Let them wonder why you left, why you stopped engaging, why you stopped caring. Let them play their games and create their stories in an attempt to fill the silence. You're no longer part of their narrative, and that's what scares them the most. They can't understand why you no longer care, why you've moved on. They might call you distant or cold, but that's their problem, not yours. The truth is, you're not cold. You're just aware. You've learned that your energy is sacred, and you no longer waste it on people who are unwilling to protect it. You've also learned that silence is not an absence of feeling. It's an abundance of control. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about understanding that some people don't deserve your emotional energy. They don't deserve your time. They don't deserve your explanation. And when you stop giving them that, you reclaim your power. You step into your worth. Now your life is about choosing where to invest your energy. You don't give it away freely anymore. You don't engage in relationships that drain you or leave you feeling unappreciated. You've learned to assess the value people bring into your life before you decide to share your space, your time, and your emotions with them. This doesn't make you cold. It makes you wise. When you finally embrace this level of detachment, you realize that the real victory isn't about making others feel what they made you feel. It's about rising above the drama and reclaiming your peace. The best revenge isn't in creating chaos for them. It's in living well and moving on with grace, and in being emotionally untouchable. You've learned that peace doesn't beg. It doesn't shout. It simply is. You don't need to get back at those who wronged you. You don't need to make them regret their actions. Life will handle that for you. People who mistreated you will eventually face the consequences of their actions. Their inability to grow their need for validation and their refusal to evolve will become their own downfall. You don't need to be part of that process. You've already moved on, and that's your victory. Let them talk. Let them create stories. Let them guess why you've stopped responding, why you're no longer a part of their lives. Let them spiral in confusion, searching for answers they will never get. And as they chase a version of you that no longer exists, you'll continue to rise unfazed and undisturbed. In the end, your silence becomes your final statement. It's not about proving anything. It's about showing them, without saying a word, that you are no longer invested in what they have to offer. You've moved beyond the need to engage with people who don't see your value. Your life, your peace, your growth, all of it speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. And that, my friend, is the ultimate form of revenge. Your evolution is the answer they'll never get. You've stepped into your own power, and there's nothing more intimidating to those who tried to control you than your ability to rise above it all. You are no longer waiting for closure. You've already closed the chapter and moved on to something far greater. Your silence is your strength. Your absence is your power. You don't need to chase validation or revenge. You just need to keep moving forward. And with each step you take, you leave behind the old unworthy version of yourself. And that in itself is the final victory.